Bear with your speakers. They put me in charge this time. Hey, it's Adam from the Canadian Football Countdown. Welcome to episode 285, of course, of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. This is our first episode after training camp has started. So it's kind of an exciting time. Everything's ready to go. There's been some cuts. There's been some ads. There's been some changes, little changes, all sorts of stuff going on here, and we're going to talk a little bit about it here tonight, as well as we get into two top five lists of our defenses and our CFL kickers. Thanks, Trey, for that. I don't know how to ever thank you so much for that. Before we get going here, just wanted to introduce the rest of the panel here tonight. Trey, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, Adam. We're getting ready for football season here, living life. I got much to say. Ryan, how's it going, buddy?
It's good. It's good. I'm happy to be here as well. I love these episodes where I'm in the passenger seat. I just get to come along for the ride and all the chaos that ensues. I love the live background you've got going there, Trey, behind you with the trees in the wind.
Oh, the trees too, because I was going to say I can see that my TVs are reflecting too, and I got the trees in the background and the thunderstorms about to hit. This is just how I last track of time putting the kids to bed, and I was like, oh crap, we're on in like 10 minutes, so I didn't have time to really rearrange anything. So you get the nice scenic view of St. Vital, Winnipeg.
We get the live CFC weather tracker behind Trey.
I've been checking the weather all day. Now that I work in the world of inoculants and agriculture, Adam, I have to check the weather every 2 minutes.
Pretty much in a nutshell, every half hour on the hour, we're checking the weather and everything else here too.
We're doing a couple field trials at work, and my big project, and I got to go check to see how well this inoculant worked. And Adam, I'm going to show you the results, man. And next spring we'll talk.
Well, exciting times. I can't wait to see this, see what exactly the results are on all this stuff. I won't bring up hockey too much here, but over on under how many times they play late on the line during the Winnipeg Jets game tonight.
I hate that song. I liked it for like game 1 and 2 of the first round. Now I hate it. But the over under, it's on it's one of the things you can probably see in the background. So, we might actually get copyrighted. Just 1 second here.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
There we go. I was like, we just got talking about laying on the line. I got it right there. 11-1 in hits in favor of the Jets. Anyway, if you see me cheer out of nowhere, it probably means the Jets actually scored. So,
yeah, spoiler alert in advance for the Jets game. If anybody is planning on watching that at a later time, and honestly, if you are prioritizing us over the Jets game, thank you.
Yeah, you need a life.
Hey, we wouldn't call these games during a Saskatchewan Rush game. I'm just saying. We wouldn't be calling the podcast then.
So. Couldn't do that.
Exactly. Playing the Buffalo Bandits, I believe, in the, NLL final or something like that, I think. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Anyway, let me get back to where we are here. Let's introduce our sponsor, of course, for tonight. The Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you by Game Time TV. Learn more by clicking GameTimeTV.ca or by following on Facebook at Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. And as always, we want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples in the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and of the Métis Nation. Hey, and if you're looking for other content besides just on this stream right here, you can head over to our weekly, if you're looking for more stuff, you can go over to chat with us over on our Discord channel. We're always hanging around there. We always got good stuff posted on there. Of course, our fans are great. They always post a lot of good things. And we're also looking for more guys for our fantasy league right now. So, hey, if you want to join in, make sure you head over to our Discord channel. Hit the like button on the post that Trey made earlier, and we'll make sure that you get some notification, and we'll get you into one of our fantasy leagues. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be Commissioner Trey this year.
Right? Yes. Yeah. Trey's running the Discord fantasy league this year. So that now's the time, if you're listening to this, to get in there. Links in the episode description, because we'll be finalizing that probably in the next little bit. So if you want to get in there and get in the fantasy league this year, which is always a lot of fun, you better do so now.
So yeah, I understand also that there was a little bit of a change, I guess, for the CFL.ca fantasy league that they run. Anybody check it out yet?
Somebody told me that the captain feature is still a thing, and I blocked the website.
I could understand that, yeah. I thought they were going to add dual captains just to make sure they got rid of Ryan, but apparently not. Trey, you check out the new CFL fantasy yet?
2 seconds, and then I just backed out. I was like, oh, it's the same old it looked like. Was there really anything different?
The colors changed.
You definitely added Zach Calero's first thing, right, Trey?
Oh, yeah.
The color scheme's different. That's really the only thing I noticed, was that they got rid of the like neon video game, like arcade styling, and went with the more traditional CFL Canadian red, it seems. So, but yeah, other than that, I didn't really notice a difference in the CFL fantasy site. But yeah, that's open as well. So, we love CFL fantasy here on the podcast. So pretty excited for another season of that, despite the captain feature, which is the most useless game-breaking feature in all of fantasy sports.
Yeah, I won't argue on that one. I really don't like the captain feature is either. It's kind of weird and unnecessary. Most times, the only thing your captain does in football is essentially call the coin. That's all they really do. Is if you're a captain, essentially. I guess maybe you can hear what the penalties are after if you want to ask the ref. Speaking of penalties and all, though, the CFL did come down with some rule changes this season here. I think this afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. Do we want to run through some of those rules, or what do we like to do on that?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. First one that I seen was now a major penalty. There's also a little bit about major penalties later on I'll talk about. But the first thing is a 25-yard major penalty. If you're within the 24 or the 23 of the oppositions, it's not going to be half the distance to the goal anymore. It's going to put the ball automatically on the 1 yard line. If it's over 25, if it's a 25-yard penalty and you're on the 24, it's going straight to the 1 yard line. Thoughts on that?
I like that they've gotten rid of the whole half the distance to the goal thing, because that never made sense to me, right? Like, this penalty in this case is a 15-yard penalty, but in this case, because when did that even happen? When you were within like 10 yards or whatever, like, oh, I'm 6 yards away from the end zone, so let's put it at the 3 instead. And this penalty is now only a 3-yard penalty. Versus obviously you can't go 15 when you're at the 6, but you can go as close as you can to the 1 yard line. So I always thought that was weird. I feel like I saw some scenarios as well where that happened, like the inverse of like half the distance back to your own goal, which didn't make a ton of sense either. I'm happy that's gone. Bring the ball down to the 1 if there's a penalty within the range. I don't see any reason why you don't. Trey?
I don't know. I could see it was only on the major penalty that brings it all the way to the 1, or was it every penalty?
I think it said major, but
okay, I can see that one. But I see the other ones. The only one that I like going to the 1 was obviously pass interference in the end zone, because you could argue would have been a touchdown, right? If it was caught. But you know what I mean? If it's like, if you're at the 10 or I guess an offside's a bad choice here, but if you're, I don't know. I don't mind the half to the goal thing for other penalties, but yeah, I think if it's a major foul, you could put it up there with kind of pass interference. It's a major penalty. You put it right to the 1.
I actually don't mind it either way, to be honest with you. If you do the penalty and you've earned 10 yards of a penalty, you should get 10 yards, not this half the distance to the goal stuff. So if I'm on the 9 yard line and I got a 10-yard penalty. Well, I deserve to move that ball right back to the 1. I shouldn't be able to go and kind of luxury myself by getting it on the 5 or 4, 6.5 or 5.5 yard line or whatever they want to use there. To me, I think it makes sense to just cancel the whole half the distance to the goal stuff. And even if it's a safety or something like that, or a feature that they have to move the ball back half the distance, well, it's too bad. You got to move it all the way back on a return or whatever it could be. But in a major, I could definitely see that. So I guess that's why they're going to start at least with that part there. Newest rule also coming out for quarterback safety. Essentially, if you are targeting with the crown of the helmet, I believe it was, and you're hitting the guy in the head or you're hitting the guy in the knee. So essentially, this is maybe the Miles Brown rule, they should almost call this, from last year when he nailed Chris Trevler. You're going to get a grade 2 major penalty, which is a automatic game ejection, I think it is, if I read that right. What's your guys' thoughts on that? To me, I don't like it. I'll tell you my thoughts first. I don't like it because you're leaving the opinion up to the referee. I don't think the guy upstairs in the spotter or whatever is going to call that. It's going to be the guy on the ground, and if he misses it or he calls it, and it isn't that penalty, there's going to be a lot of angry fans screaming. It's another thing to let the ref control what's going on in the game, and I don't like it. Trey, what's your thoughts?
No, I could see your point. It's kind of like the targeting call in NCAA where there's like if the ref deems it was an intent to hurt, and then you watch the replay and it was just a guy tripping and the call was made and they don't overturn it. So as long as there's like a potential review process on it, like the CFL already has on everything, I get it. But yeah, game speed, every hit looks like you're hitting with the crown of the helmet. Every hit looks like in football there's an intent to hurt. So yeah, I'm not too sure about that one either.
Yeah, my big thing with like any of these rule changes is just, can it be called consistently, and can it be called consistently? Ooh, big lightning flash behind Trey there. That was fun. Can it be called consistently and good pace of game as well, right? Like, I don't want to introduce more things that then we're going to have stoppages in play for a challenge or a video review to go and slow the game down a ton. Yes, it's important to eliminate dangerous plays from football. Do I wish a dangerous play on anybody? Absolutely not. And, you could have the argument either way of like, are penalties like this necessary in order to stop that? You hope these guys, act with the intention of integrity and don't try to purposefully deliver hits like that. But obviously that tends to happen in the heat of the moment. But, like Trey said, like, football is such a fast sport. Like, I'm of the opinion that the less that should be reviewable by video, the better almost for the CFL. I don't know if the roughing the passer kind of goes into that category, because you could slow it down enough to find a reason to call it roughing the passer on almost any, touch on the quarterback. But I think even more so if we want to get into low hits on vulnerable receivers being now a new penalty they're introducing for it. Anything on the receivers, like pass interference, stuff like that, guys are going to fight for the ball. If you slow that down to a still frame, you'd call pass interference every single time on a video review. And I just think that's not what the sport of football is about. To me, I'd rather the ref get the call wrong on the field and it not be reviewed than to go through a painful review process and have an argument still either way of like, oh, did this happen or not, and be inconclusive.
No, I agree. I hate judgment calls being reviewable, right? Like, again, John Madden said holding happens on every play. It just depends on if the ref sees it and calls it. So, that's one reason holding isn't a penalty that you can review, because you could just throw that challenge flag anytime. Same with roughing the passer. It is kind of a judgment call. Like some refs give you a Mississippi. Different quarterbacks get different rules, right? You can hit Bo Levi different than you can hit some rookie. There's those things like that. And we just saw it in hockey. I still don't know what kicking a puck in the net is, right? For different sports. So I think the review process, leave it to catches and spot of the ball. That's kind of where I'm at with the review, or where like the ball crossed the plane, something that's definite. You can see the ball, or you can see the ball hit the ground. Leave it there. I don't want to see. I hate the 20 minutes waiting for pass interference and then all the players were sitting there, and then you get down the field. I don't want to see more of that.
No, I agree. Another rule that has changed in the CFL, automatic ejections. The list of actions that lead to automatic ejections has been expanded. All low block penalties on kicking plays and also punching actions, open or throw closed hands to the head area. So Andrew Harris can no longer hit a Saskatchewan Rough Rider player. Oh, wait, he's on our team. Guess he won't be doing that anyways. All low kicking block plays. This is a little bit more, I don't know. I don't like this one because of it kind of eliminates the idea of going for a block, doesn't it? Because if you touch a guy, not only now, back then you would get the automatic, if it was third down, you'd automatically, the other team would get back to first down, away you go. But now, if you touch the kicker and you get a bad low kicking penalty call, you're ejected? That seems like a little extreme, doesn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, it does. And I wonder, like, what is the range they consider? I mean, it says all, right? So you would assume it does mean any and all. And so I guarantee you there's going to be a play this year, if that's the case, where somebody is going to try to block a kick. They're going to miss it. They're going to accidentally hit the kicking leg or the planted leg of the kicker, and they're going to get ejected from the game for it based on these rules. And I agree, like punching actions, like that's 100% intentional. You cannot punch somebody unintentionally, frankly, right? Or unless it's like a fluke accident that you stick out your arm and they walk past or something like that. But like that seems like a very intentional action, whereas like the low block penalties on kicking plays, yes, sometimes those could happen intentionally and you want to avoid those. I think a lot of times they probably are a byproduct of going for a block, that an ejection feels very harsh to me on those ones. Even though I know it's pretty dangerous, obviously the planted leg is pretty vulnerable for somebody to be able to, knock a guy out there. But I don't know. Agreed, Trey? Disagree on too severe?
Sorry, I kind of zoned out there. What were we talking about?
The low block penalties on all low block penalties on all kicking plays now leads to an ejection.
Ejection? No, that's wild. Wild. Because there's so many that are accidents. You're going for the ball. I disagree with that one. I missed that one.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think you really go for a chance even anymore of going for the ball, because why? If you're going to get a dejection, that's worth way more than just, happen to get a chance at a punt block, essentially, or a kick block, right? So, I don't know. I don't like it, but nevertheless, another rule here that's new up, it is the removal, low hits on vulnerable receivers rule. So, penalty has been created to deter low hits on the receiver who are not in position to actively protect themselves. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down, when the blow is delivered at or below the knees, or the player is in the act of catching a pass while in a vulnerable position. But here's the kicker: is should the receiver jump, they will lose low hit protection. So essentially, if let's say Eugene Lewis goes up in the air to catch a ball and he gets taken out, essentially a guy hits him to try to get him, and he makes it like it's an ugly looking hit. No protection. But if Eugene Lewis stands there and gets hit low when he makes a catch while still on the ground, that's a 15-yard penalty? Is that the way I read this, Ryan?
I think so. Yeah, I think that tracks here. If a guy jumps, he's actively jumping up into the play. I think that makes sense to have that differentiation there between these. But yeah, just what it goes back to what I was saying earlier about yet another penalty that'll likely be called and cause uproar when it's called for contact on a receiver in the CFL.
Trey, same thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
Okay, well, next one that I've got here is once an eligible receiver touches a pass, all players on both teams become eligible to catch the pass. So I guess essentially if it bounces, like we did see against Saskatchewan and BC, it bounces off of a receiver and then it ends up bouncing off another defensive player, and then it ends up bouncing into the hands of an offensive lineman. I guess he's technically an eligible receiver in case he wants to go and try to make a backwards lateral pass. I don't know. I guess it's
like why not
jargon.
though, right? Like that's one of the
Why
ones
not?
where it's like offensive lineman catches the ball and runs 20 yards downfield. Like that's a great moment that would suck to see called back just for the sake of calling it back because he's an ineligible receiver. Like I want to see tip passes like drawn up in the playbook now, throw it to your star receiver. He tips it up. Lineman catches it. Stack them right beside each other. I don't know. The rule also does not say that it has to be a player on the field. It just says all players on both teams. So I want to see a tip ball and the entire bench rush the field to take it downfield.
Somehow I could see all of a sudden Chris Jones or like one of the coaches catch the football and say, I'm part of the team.
Yeah, full rugby style. I like it.
I'll take it. Trey, any thoughts?
No, I think that if it's a tip ball, like it's for sure to be a fair game, right? Like you're right. Like, maybe it's different, but again, it's the same thing. Then when the defensive lineman gets a pick, that's awesome, right? So when you get the offensive lineman to do it, or sometimes even those trick plays where the offensive lineman is the eligible receiver in the end zone and the big guy gets the touchdown, that's great. I want to see, like, obviously you can't intentionally do it, but it'd be great to have those plays still be available. But I guess you always want to take away the possibility of maybe like an intentional tip to somebody. Because how do you deem that? I don't know, but I guess that's a tricky area.
I just think that's fun chaos, and that's what the CFL should lean into.
It's called the Chaos Football League for a reason, and they should embrace their inner chaos. I mean, why not? As far as I'm concerned, no. That's exactly what you should be doing. Last rule I'll talk a little bit about here is the offside pass. An offside pass is defined as a ball being directed in any manner other than being kicked towards the opponent's deadline. The team making the offside pass is not permitted to advance the ball or retain possession beyond the originating point of the pass. The following plays will not be considered an offside pass. If the defending player prevents the ball from going out of bounds, knocks it down, or bats it back into the playing area in an offside direction, and batting a loose ball in any direction following a fumble, a block kick, a wild snap, lateral pass, or kicked ball. Sounds very interesting, but honestly, I got to see how. I'm a visual guy. I cannot visualize how this looks really on a CFL football field. Trey, any suggestions on this?
I was so confused. What's an onside pass?
And what's the opponent's deadline?
To me, this sounds like gargle that they just put in there because it's in the book somewhere and they had to adjust something. I don't know. But I don't know what they adjusted. So hard to say how this one's going to end up working. But once we actually see it called and something happens with this rule, we'll come back to it and say if it's a good one or not, because I don't know.
It's going to be one of the things like the onside punt, the dribble punt, where it's like nobody knows this is a thing until a team tries something intentional around this. And then it's going to be great. And that's my biggest win out of all of these rule changes is that the Jeshurun Antwi dribble punt still exists in the CFL, as much as Trey hates it.
Yeah.
That's still a great rule. I enjoy it too. So those are your 6 rules changes in the CFL for the year. Going back over to what we said, I don't think anybody's going to be practicing any of these, especially offside one. I'm not sure how they're going to do that one during training camp, although the Riders did get into a fist fight during training camp. I guess maybe both guys were ejected. One guy was actually cut. Speaking of cuts, we've had a few in the training camp portion of the season. I will run through the first one for the Rough Riders. If you guys want to grab one each and kind of go through some of them. The biggest one that I've seen so far is that the the Rough Riders have released offensive lineman Noah Zur. Again, this is a Saskatchewan-born offensive lineman, so kind of surprising there, as well as they did also release a Australian kicker. I believe he was there last year. It was Jeff Couch, I think was the name. He was released as well for Saskatchewan. Kind of interesting that they released him. I thought maybe he might get punting duties, seeing as Saskatchewan now is kind of looking for a punter. But okay. Trey, anything developing over in Winnipeg side of the football?
Excuse me. Yeah, they got rid of Shea Patterson, which is, I mean, I'm not too surprised, but a lot of people are. I think a couple weeks ago, Ryan and I were talking about it when the Zach Collaros news came down over the suspension. I said I would run with Strevy and Wilson, and Ryan goes, or Strevy and Patterson, and I was like, nah, not him. But I think that maybe he was the insurance plan just in case Strevy didn't come through. Maybe Wilson showed up more in the early days. Who knows? I haven't been there. I haven't had too much time, but that's kind of the major cut that I saw from Winnipeg. There's a few. Trey Odoms-Dukes got cut in Edmonton, I saw. Who else? Was there anyone else I'm missing?
I think those were the major ones I had seen as well. Kalen Laybourne from Saskatchewan also was a little bit interesting in the sense that they also cut Raquel Armstead, who was the starter before Laybourne in Ottawa last season. So, Saskatchewan, I mean, obviously they're all in on AJ Ouellette as their starter, but I thought they brought in some good depth late last season and in free agency, and they've now released them. So they might like some of the other options they have behind them there. But yeah, the Shea Patterson one was the most shocking, I think, to me out of everything. And the mad disrespect for USFL first overall pick legend, Shea Patterson. I'm distraught.
Somewhere there's a Michigan Wolverines fan ready to go and eat his hat, I would think. Yeah, you know what? I was actually surprised that they cut Patterson. I mean, you still don't have depth in Winnipeg right now. You aren't getting Taylor Igasma. I'm sorry, I can never pronounce his name right. He's in Packers training camp right now. You still have Chris Trevler as a variable runner / whatever you want to call him in Winnipeg. I mean, I went and I said before, I think it's Wilson and in Wilson they trust, because that's really their only depth now in Winnipeg for anything. I mean, I thought Shea Patterson was a great signing because it was a guy that has CFL experience in starting if you ever have Zach Collaros injured. But I guess Zach Collaros is going to go 18 games this year.
Well, 17, because he's suspended for the first. But yeah, to me, the thing that didn't make sense, and it's crazy, like if the thing we're most upset over is the guy competing for the second or third string quarterback, like I think we're doing all right if out of these first round of cuts. But yeah, Patterson to me made sense as a guy to bring in to play that depth piece. The team is attached to Chris Strevler, of course, and everything he brings to the team outside of just what he does on the field. But it makes me very concerned that if Zach Collaros does get a long-term injury, we 100% know the team is going to turn the ball over to Chris Strevler. And I don't think Strevler can be at this point in his career. And I know he had a lot of time early in his career in a starting role, but I don't think he's a long-term starter. I think he's the right choice to put in there probably for that week one game when Collaros is out, because Strevler has everything, all the tools he needs to just bruise his way to a win and a spot start here and there. But I don't think he's a consistent long-term starter. And so then that leaves us with Terry Wilson, who is very much still an unknown. And granted, some other unknowns have turned into great quarterbacks in the CFL, and Wilson could too. But I did like the insurance policy there of Patterson a little bit. I thought I kind of liked him from what I saw from him last season in Saskatchewan. He didn't, he wasn't a barn burner, but he did all right. And I guess it's Wilson's kind of that future guy for now until Gersma comes back. But after signing his deal with the Packers, who knows when that's going to be for the Bombers to have to wait for him there.
Oh, you're muted.
Well,
Now
You're
you're
good.
I'm good. Okay. I was going to say, did you guys talk about Dante Bull last week?
I don't think we did. I can talk about it quickly, though. Yeah, Dante Bull, add him to the list of first overall draft pick failures in the CFL because due to injury issues, he was drafted first in 2023, I think it was, by Ottawa, and he's retired now 2 years later.
Absolutely. Kind of amazing how first overall draft picks. I'm sorry, they're cursed in the CFL. I just, if you're a CFL first overall pick, you're probably not looking on the right side of the way because you end up going and not succeeding. Let's put it that way. It just seems like it's not a good spot to be in. Uh, any other news we have out of training camp going into the second week, I guess, of training camp next week?
I think the biggest news for me that came out this week is the BC Lions ownership team is crushing it again with their concert series for the home opener. With Snoop Dogg's going to be performing at the halftime show this time around. Trey, thoughts on the BC Lions landing Snoop?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, I know that weed's pretty cheap in Vancouver, so maybe that's what they got Snoop to get there for. I know Snoop loves the CFL. Snoop loves Canada. They had 50 Cent last year, right? That was just last year?
Think so?
Yeah. Or was it 2 years ago now?
That sounds familiar.
I think it was just last year. Yeah, so they keep rolling on that. I think that's great. It seems like they have, 40,000 tickets already sold out. A little jealous, like, the Blue Bomber house band is okay, but there's no Snoop Dogg, right? So, would we have Fred Penner? Like, that was okay, too, but I'd take Snoop over that.
Still, the halftime dog show is number one for me.
Or that magician one. That was wild.
That was good. That was good. Yeah. For those that aren't aware, in Winnipeg a couple of years ago, they had a escape artist perform at halftime instead of a concert. That was pretty sweet. But yeah, I mean, as far as high profile names go, it seems the BC Lions are outclassing the rest of the CFL in recent years with being able to bring them in for concerts.
Yeah, it's been just taking a look here. We had One Republic in 2022, LL Cool J in 2023, and then 50 Cent brought 53,788 fans in 2024. So, hey, can they hit 60? I don't know. I don't think they're probably legally allowed to put that many in BC Place Stadium, but I'd for sure like to see it. Yeah, great job by the BC Lions again. I think he was a Super Bowl halftime act not that long ago, was he?
He appeared with Dr. Dre. It was Dr. Dre and it was Snoop Dogg, and was it Eminem back in LA? Yeah.
So you're telling me they're going to come out for this stunt for BC?
Maybe.
Also, the best show that they ever had in Saskatchewan. At halftime, we had a sheep mutton busting contest. And one of the
I still don't believe that's a real thing.
No. There's kids that still do that. But the funniest part was the sheep gets away from all the handlers and is just running down the field. Just hilarious. It was the best time ever. But nevertheless, I'm almost as good as the CFL Rabbit, but I mean that's pushing it.
I really just think, though, like Amar Doman, Lions ownership, to me is the class of the CFL. And I think there are some others that are good, too. Like, I think Wade Miller's done a lot of good things with Winnipeg over the last couple of years as well. But I look at BC, where all the talk, they were lumped in with Toronto as that team that nobody wanted to go see a game there. And now, it's such a vibe, it feels like, to go to a Lions game. Like, it's packed. They have a lot of good stuff going on there. And I think the way he has turned around the culture around football in BC has been fantastic over the last couple of years. And yeah, it was, are some of these big names my cup of tea? No, not necessarily. But for a lot of people, they will. And a lot of people will go buy tickets to this football game just to see a 15-minute show at halftime. If that brings more people in the stadium, that brings in more money, that brings in more potential football interest. And I think that's just a win-win-win across the board for the BC Lions. So kudos to Amar Doman for all of that. Also, I just realized like 33 minutes into this podcast that my microphone was halfway across the room. So I apologize if my audio has been a little choppy or tough to hear up until now, but that should be sorted out going forward.
There we go. I think you're right. BC has really done a great job. Montreal's done a good job too. I don't know who LOP is, Tim. Sorry about that. OLP. Still, again, Farmer not computing with modern music, probably, but nevertheless, you know what? There's been some good acts around the CFL. Amar Dorman, though, he does seem to get the best act that there possibly is. It's a great way to start off your year all the time, with the home opener being one of those games that you just can't miss. And then you end up going in, hey, this is pretty good football. Let's watch this. I love how he made that business plan. Yeah, it works really well. Better than Edmonton's plan of bringing salt and pepper. That was interesting back in the day. So, nevertheless,
OLP stands for
Our Lady
Peace. According to Wikipedia, a Canadian alternative rock band formed in Toronto, Ontario in 1992.
Now that you said it, yes, okay, I've heard of Our Lady Peace. Now that's good band, definitely a good one for Montreal. Hopefully they can get a little bit of a concert series going out there too. That'd be kind of cool. Nevertheless, I guess we're going to move on to our the lists here that we have this for this episode. First of all, Trey, what were you thinking?
I was thinking that we're one of the top Canadian football countdown shows in the world, so we got to tackle the tough ones. You know, we can't tackle the easy ones. We already did that, so we got to tackle some tough ones here and do top 5 kickers and top 5 defenses.
I would hope we're the number one Canadian football countdown show in the world, given that's literally our name. I hope nobody else is a better Canadian football countdown, but
I had to add that because I was like, well, I don't want to insult the other Canadian podcasts, so I was just, you know, we're probably the number one Canadian Football League podcast on the AFN.
Oh, smart. Yeah. There we go. Crushing it.
Yeah, undisputed. I don't think anybody's arguing that one there.
No.
What do you guys want to start with? You want to start with kickers or you want to start with defenses?
Let's start with defense.
Yeah, let's get this out of the way.
Oh, man, that means I got to get my number 5. Well, in that case, because I'm kind of leading the show tonight, I'm going to make Trey go first, and he can release his number 5 pick. And we'll do like you guys did last week. If it is the same pick as yours, just say where you had it and explain why you put it in that position instead. So, Trey, with number 5 overall pick in the defensive category of the countdown, you selected?
Just purely based off of vibes, and I think that there's 4 defenses better than this one. I went with the BC Lions. I think that they've had some potential there. I got to get back into the defensive rosters in my head. I'm just kind of going based off of, again, what I feel like from the past, that they were okay. So, anybody, you guys got BC anywhere?
Well, I can tell you that I sure do. I actually have them also at number 5. The reason being is Matthew Betts is still a really good player. I always am very high on Nathan Cherry as a defensive lineman, and they do always have a pretty good defensive secondary that can do some damage if you're not paying attention to them. If you look at some of the names over in BC that I could tell you of, Gary Peters always is a great defensive back. Deontay Williams, I'm really excited about. He was in Saskatchewan last year. He's a really good defensive back for us. I was kind of disappointed that the Riders couldn't bring him back. And of course, you got guys like Jalen Edwards Cooper, who's been there for a while, but still knows the ropes very well. So, yeah, I've got him at number 5. Ryan, you got them on your list?
I do not have BC's defense on my list. No, I was just so let down by them last season, I feel like, where you talk about, the defensive line, you talk about guys like Matthew Betts, and they do have a lot of good talent there on paper, but it didn't translate on the field, I feel like, for the second half of the season last year. And yes, they brought in some pieces. They've also lost some pieces there on the defensive side of the ball. So, nothing too... Yeah, I feel like they haven't changed enough where I'm going to bump them up on my list so they didn't quite make it. I can give you who my number 5 is, though, to round out our number 5s. I have the Saskatchewan Roughriders at number 5 on defense for me this year. I do like some of the additions they did bring in free agency on that defensive line, like we were talking about. I like the Mike Rose addition. I like Shane Ray. I think he went off to the NFL. Now he's coming back there. I don't feel like they lost a whole ton on the defensive side, and I think the Riders are always a team that's going to have the pieces there if they can stay healthy, right? And that's the major concern for them. But I do like a number of the options they have, and bringing Tavon Campbell back from the NFL as well, I think is a huge addition for the secondary.
Trey, did you have the Riders anywhere on your list?
I have them as number 3, kind of very similar as what Ryan said. They have good pieces. And also, if they just stay healthy and stay out of penalty trouble. Like, I think they would have been a way better team. Maybe every defense is like that, but I feel like a lot of their penalties were more sloppy ones early in the season and things like that. So maybe not quite 14-4 if they didn't get rid of their penalties, but I think they would have been a little bit better.
Well, I hate to sound like a homer because I'm going to in about 10 seconds here. But actually, I've got the Saskatchewan Roughriders as the number 1 defense right now in the CFL. Now, here's my reasoning before you go and jump on me. Their defensive linemen are completely stacked right now. You got Micah Johnson still running up the middle, can play both sides if he had to, but mostly is always on one side, on the defensive side. Caleb Sanders, Mike Rose, Malik Carney, all those guys are great defensive linemen, and you can only play 4 of them. By the way, they also have some great depth. Baldonado last year was one of those guys that I was disappointed was on the sidelines a whole pile during the season because he looks dangerous. He was behind Miles Brown. Miles Brown ain't there anymore, and I think that, honestly, you're going to see Baldonado a lot in this defense. I think he's a great pick into there. Charnel DeBeer has been a great defensive lineman, and that's, again, Canadian depth. So Saskatchewan has that going for them. On the linebacking side of the football, CJ Avery, AJ Allen, Jameer Thurman, those are really good pieces to have as your defense, as your linebacking core. Again, you got one Canadian in AJ Allen who's really looked good, and Jameer Thurman's has 76 defensive tackles last season. So I could see this linebacking core being one of the more solid parts of the Rough Riders defense. Of course, you're going to see some cuts as well. They still have some big pieces that they've added in there. Malik Straker, I thought, is a great piece. And then in the defensive backfield, yes, I said that they lost a few pieces in Deontay Williams. They also did lose to the Ottawa Red Blacks. Amari Henderson. Anyways.
Addition by subtraction.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was almost an addition in a way. But you got the guy from the NFL back. You got Tavon Campbell. He's a Canadian of all things. Jackson Ford's going to have a full training camp this time. Again, another Canadian. I really like how this Rough Riders and Roland Mulligan Jr., I haven't even brought him up yet as a defensive back. He was the leader in interceptions was it interceptions last year or tackles? I think it was actually all-purpose tackles.
Oh, maybe it was both.
Anyways, like I said, it's a very, very deep defensive core for the Rough Riders. If everybody stays healthy, and I have a funny feeling this year here they got so much depth that they can afford to even have an injury, and I think they could be okay. I'm going to give them the number 1 spot, and that's my main reasoning why I went so long in this rant, because I think the Rough Riders are probably one of those underrated defensive teams for 2025.
You guys have convinced me to move them up to number 4 on my list. I will officially slot the Riders in there. I was debating between 2 teams for that spot, and yeah, I think I'll put them there. The thing I'm really looking forward to this year that I didn't mention before is the second year of Corey Mason as that head coach role. You know, he's the big defensive-minded guy. Maybe another year of just being settled helps him make a bigger impact with that defense this year as well. So
And again, that wasn't a pretty good defense even last season, I thought. Not as good as some other teams, and especially when you look at how many times Amari Henderson got burned. But I mean, nevertheless, they don't have that piece. I think they upgraded it with Tavon Campbell coming in. I think they've upgraded in that position, and overall, yeah, Corey Mace has some really good pieces to work with. Do you want to then go with your number 5 pick, Ryan? Because you said number 4 is Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I'm going to swap them around a little bit. I think I'm going to go with the Toronto Argonauts here, and that as my number 5 pick. And their defense was up and down last year. Like, they're very much that bend but don't break defense, I feel like, where they gave up a lot, but then they came up with the key takeaways that really turned the tide of the game. They lost a lot of pieces in free agency, as they do every year. Like, their D-line got decimated with Seresna, Smith, and Brinkman all being gone. I think they all went over to Edmonton. Their secondary, they lost a lot of pieces too, but I think they brought a few good pieces in there, and I've said the last couple of years that the Argos are just such a deep team that it's fine if they lose pieces in free agency, and I think they're still just as good, right? And they made the trade to bring in Cameron Judge. A combo of Judge and McManus at linebacker is pretty deadly, I have to say. So I think the Argos still, your argument for the Riders was convincing for me, but I got to at least put the Argos in my top 5. So I'll slot them in at number 5. They make your guys' list?
Yep, they made mine, but Trey, did they make your list as well?
Yeah, they did. I have them at number 2. Went a little higher on that. I know they missed some pieces. They had some swapping of pieces, but I felt like they had a pretty good defense overall and a pretty good defensive structure. I know they lost a fair bit of pieces, but sometimes I'll take coaching and like strategy over the actual players. And I think some of the pieces they missed that they could plug in new guys. So that's why I have them at number 2. And the Jets scored, by the way. So that's good.
Thank you for the update on that.
Hey, how's the Avalanche?
The Argonauts, I did it.
Lightning.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. Laugh at Ryan. How's the Lightning doing?
I was just going to make the joke that the lightning outside Trey's window is the most lightning activity I've seen in weeks.
Pretty well. I mean, all we need to do is see some leaves falling outside Trey's window. We got a full, accurate NHL assessment. Sorry, Trey.
Are they out yet?
Anyway,
tomorrow, Trey. Tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow.
Speaking of Toronto,
anyways,
Adam, where did you have them?
Yeah.
I've got them at number 4. The reason being is I like some of the pieces they've got. They've gotten a lot of changes again, but Celestin Haba is going to help them. I mean, Lanier to second I thought was good in Saskatchewan. He just needed a different change of scenery, essentially. I mean, they've got some good pieces in there. Ryder Varga and Cameron Judge both are great linebackers. I maybe question a little bit about their depth is probably what I'd be more worried about with Toronto. But if their main starters all play every game, yeah, I could see them actually having a really good year. So, but we all know that nobody's perfect and everybody gets injured eventually. And if you look at the charts right now, Whit McManus is actually day-to-day already before even really training camp gets seriously going. So that's a little bit scary for me for Toronto. But nevertheless, I'll have them at the number 4 spot. Do we have everybody's number 4? No, we don't. Trey, what is your number 4?
I got the Winnipeg Blue Bombers because I feel like, again, I think that they'll still have the bend, not break, frustrating defense like always, and they'll probably keep it up. And they had some good signings. They still got Willie Jefferson. They still got big parts of that secondary, even though they lost Trey Ford and other things. But again, I think it's going to be a defense where they just plug and play.
Ryan, did Winnipeg make your list?
Yeah, Winnipeg made my list at number 2. Last year, I was the one striking the drum of Winnipeg is the best defense in the CFL. Yes, their run defense struggled, but their pass defense was elite. They held teams out of the end zone. And they did all of that with an offense that couldn't put the ball into the end zone for most of the season, which, I like to think that Winnipeg might hopefully trend a little more positively on offense, which gives their defense a little bit of a break as well. But yes, they did lose some pieces. I know there are some concerns on the defensive line, talent-wise, for the Bombers. I think bringing in James Vaughters was a good option there. They brought in Jonathan Jones, who I think was released by the Argos. That's a good linebacker addition for them. And yes, Brandon Alexander's gone. Adam Bighill is gone. Tyrell Ford is obviously the big one there. I'm never really too concerned with losing linebacker or losing defensive backs like that, because that has happened to the Bombers for ages. And every time a new guy comes in, that's how you get guys like Deatrick Nichols that have come in and made a name for themselves, like Evan Holm, who's come in and made a name for themselves, is guys departing and them finding that next diamond in the rough. So I'm not too concerned with the losses for Winnipeg. And I really like some of the younger guys that are now stepping up on this team, like Tony Jones at linebacker, who I think is just a perfect fill-in for Adam Bighill and is better than Adam Bighill is at this point in his career.
I don't have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on my list, and the reason being is pretty straightforward. Tony Jones is very good. I do like some of the defensive back pieces in Winnipeg. Deatrick Nichols and Nick Hallett both I really do like as defensive backs. But when I go to the defensive line, that's usually where games are won and lost, is what I consider is in the trenches. And Willie Jefferson, James Waters is good, but I don't know. I got some questions about this team. It's 31, 34, 34. They're getting older, and I don't like the chances about that in Winnipeg when you got an older defensive line, and even in the linebacking core, other than Jones. You got to have a second linebacker in there. I guess maybe Jonathan Jones might be your second option, but again, I don't know.
And you have Reddick Ramsey in there as well at linebacker. I believe that's where he plays, who made a huge impact last year. I can understand where you're coming from with the D line. I think the one underrated piece of the defensive line is the Bombers should get Cameron Lawson back from injury, who was going to be a starter, I believe, last year and missed the entire season. So that might be kind of like the solace here for Bomber fans on the D line. And if they go with the same scheme they did last year, where they just decided not to even try to get sacks on the quarterback, you don't really need a great pass rush if your game plan doesn't at all evolve around a pass rush.
Can't argue that one. And you know what? Willie Jefferson still can move and still can make plays. We've seen that in the Grey Cup. We've seen that in the West Final a little bit there. Willie's going to Willie. So I think, honestly, he probably, like I said, can turn a game around as well when he needs to. I just don't know if he's got the capability of doing this for 18 games and being the main piece. You're right. If they get Cam Lawton back, I think they'll be having a lot better of a chance. But they need him back sooner than later. We're going to move on to number 3 here. Ryan, why don't you go and give us your number 3 pick?
Sure, I can give my number 3 here. My number 3 is the team that won free agency on paper on all sides of the ball, especially on defense. It's the Edmonton Elks, who I have at number 3. They look so improved on paper, and I will put this with the asterisk that does not always translate onto the field chemistry-wise. We've seen that time and time again. But what they've really done is overhaul that defensive line, being able to bring Jake Seresna back home this offseason, and then also Robbie Smith with him, Jared Brinkman with them on the D line. Jonathan Kongbo's back in the league now as a depth piece there. All of the pieces they brought in, linebacker Emmanuel Rugamba had a great season last year with BC. Tyrell Ford's the big one. The Ford brothers playing together there. Royce Metier, Kobe Williams, these are all names they brought in free agency that, go back to our 8-hour live show on free agency day. we were talking about some of the biggest fish on the defensive side of the ball in free agency, all seeming to go to the Edmonton Elks. And I think the most impressive thing for me with all of that is they made all of these additions and still found the money to keep Nick Anderson and Niles Morgan, who tied with 111 tackles last year in their linebacking core. So on paper, this team is stacked on defense, I think. I didn't put them higher up because I still want that little piece of show me that you can actually play all together on the field. But I feel like at least top 3 is reasonable for them this year.
Exact same reasons I've got Edmonton at number 3 as well. When you got Nick Anderson and you've got all these pieces here, Niles Morgan, they brought back Jake Serez now. Jonathan Kongbo's there. You've got so many deep pieces. Joel DeBlanco, he's in first overall draft pick. Maybe that's not so great, as we've seen how first overall draft pick goes. But even he was very good last year, and he's going into another era. And of course, Tyrell Ford now was a big part of it. In paper, Ed Hervey's teams always look really good. They get into the game. I want to see it to believe it because, Edmonton defensively has never been solid for a few years now. I'm hoping that this is the year that they take a step forward and that they can do something, and it very well could be. But until I see it, you're right. I'm the same way. It's number 3 for me. Trey, did the Edmonton Elks make your list?
No, only because, yeah, sure, they added all those names, but just, the Elks are going to elk. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of my worry, that watch Trey Ford and all those other additions just have the worst year of their career. And or something just because the Edmonton. I know Edmonton's getting better slowly, but I kind of just went based off of history on that one.
Well, Trey, I guess then you're open to give us your number 3 pick. Who do you got?
He said Saskatchewan already for his number 3. We've got, I'm tracking it here. Adam, we've got your number 2 left, and we've got my number 1 and Trey's number 1 left to go.
Okay. Well, number 2 pick then, Trey. I'll let you do yours first because I have a funny feeling we're going to be talking about the same team.
Number 2 pick was already said.
Yeah, you're the only one without a number 2, Adam.
Well, then I guess I got to bring it up. I'm sure probably one of you guys has this team, if not both of you. It's the Montreal Alouettes. I think that they've got a very, very deep defensive team, and again, it starts in the line or in the defensive line. I mean, Mustafa Johnson has been a very good defensive lineman for a long time. Josh Archibald. Oh, by the way, Sean Oakman and now over there as well. Oakman looked amazing whenever I've seen him play. They've got a very good defensive line, but then their linebacking core is arguably, I don't think there's a better linebacking core in the league than Darnell Sankey and Tyrese Beverett. Oh, by the way, if you need another one, there's Tyrell Richards, if there's ever a possibility of an injury. Otherwise, why would you ever let those guys ever sit on the sideline? I mean, they're just going to wreak havoc out there at all times. And when you go into their defensive backfield, I mean, they're just as strong as anybody else. I mean, Bryce Cosby has been good. They've got so many other good pieces. And maybe that's where I could see a slight kink in the armor, if there is anything, is maybe the secondary. But overall, this team here makes so many plays with their linebacking core in interceptions and forced fumbles and everything else. They're just dangerous. And I mean, Noel Thorpe is going to have them going like there's no tomorrow again, like always. And yeah, I don't want to see. I wouldn't want to be on an offensive line or on an offense if I've got the Montreal Alouettes coming at me. Ryan, you got the Alouettes anywhere?
Ditto. Trey? I have Montreal at number 1 on my list for a lot of the reasons you just said, Adam. I think they were the second best defense in the CFL last year. Interestingly, I had Winnipeg and Montreal at number 1 and 2 last year, despite having the worst run defenses, I think, in the CFL, or 2 of the worst, because they weren't great at stopping it, but they were great at keeping points off the board and doing everything else. And yeah, how can you not rank this as a top-tier defense when you've got the likes of Sankey, Beverett, Marc-Antoine Dequoy in the secondary? You talked about the weakness potentially in the secondary. I don't see one there with Dequoy, Cabianento, Wesley Sutton, the names of those guys. Like, that's a very solid secondary. And yeah, I do like those additions you talked about on the defensive line. So, and they didn't really lose anything. They also, on the defensive line, I think they got Lawal Ugawuk back from the NFL, who was a recent draft pick of theirs. So yeah, I think the Alouettes defense should be tops in the league once again this year. Trey, did they make number one for you?
Yeah, they sure did for every reason you guys said, and I don't need to repeat it. We're already at the hour mark, so yeah, Montreal is my number one defense.
Perfect. Well, that's our defenses here. Some names that weren't taken by anybody. We'll just run through them real fast because there's only 4 other ones that we can talk about, really. Actually, only 3 because we talked about BC as well. Hamilton Tiger Cats. Any reason why none of them made your list?
I just don't trust the linebackers. Like, I like the additions they made in the defensive backfield. I like their defensive line, their linebackers. I need to see more from them.
Yep, same.
Okay, and the other one that we can talk about, the Calgary Stampeders. Let's go west real quick. I got the same thing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I don't have any other reason. You're right. The linebacking core, just not there that I can see. They're just going to score a whole pile of points and win games. That's what they're going to do. Calgary, what are we thinking of their defense? Trey, you want to go on this one first?
Go ahead, Trey.
I mean, this was just pure vibes, but I'm going to say like the same thing. Calgary was just going to Calgary. Like, to me, they just didn't have a lot of great talent, and I didn't see much addition unless they're going to go and do what they always do and just find studs, random American studs, and that can plug and play. Yeah, I don't have high hopes for Calgary this year in general.
I think Calgary's going to give up a lot of points this year, and they brought in some good additions. Like Damon Webb was one of my top 10 pending free agents, I believe. He goes over to Calgary in the secondary, but then Demario Houston was let go after a police incident, right, or investigation. So it's kind of one step forward, one step back in that category for Calgary there. The defensive line, getting a Rimolade back to Calgary is nice there, but they lose Mike Rose. They lose some of those guys. So I don't love the defensive line for the Stamps. And I think, yeah, this is a defense that has some good pieces, but just isn't strong enough for me.
I agree. I look at this, and you were talking about the defensive line. I look at the linebacking core usually when I'm looking for defensive plays. And Derek Moncrief, again, we've had him in Saskatchewan. He's been in Edmonton. He doesn't do a whole lot anymore. And he's 31 years old. I mean, he gets some tackles, but he's not one of those that gets out of his way to make a lot of different plays. He had 1 interception last season. Micah Tights will probably be the guy on the other side of him. Didn't do much in Saskatchewan. I don't have much faith in the linebacking core. You're right. The defense on the line does not look maybe the most impressive. And that secondary the last few years has given up quite a few points. And now they don't even have their ball hawk in Demario Houston. So, yeah, Calgary doesn't go high on my list. Last one we've got to talk about real quick is the Ottawa Red Blacks. Ryan, why don't you run on that one?
Defensive line is very good, obviously, for the Red Blacks. They've got a lot of good pieces there. I would say they're underrated. I feel like we never talk about Ottawa's defense, like, ever. Over the last couple of years, all the focus has just been on the offensive ineptitude, and then last year maybe, you know, the trending upwards for the offense at times, but that defense is just kind of like middle of the road. They're not terrible, but they don't stand out to me a lot of the time. And so that I probably have them at like 6th or 7th place, but it doesn't necessarily pop off the paper for me. Trey, any thoughts on Ottawa?
Yeah, same thing. They were a team last year where like somehow they'd have some game where they gave up under 20 points and tied, right? Or something like that. Or that weird game against Saskatchewan where both defenses looked good, but was it both defenses were good or was it both offenses were bad? I think that's kind of what they did. They found the random week where they made an offense look bad or offense was bad and might have skewed one way. And then the next week, I feel like they gave up, 30 points. So I think it was the inconsistency for me that left them out. But again, with Ryan said, I probably would have them 6 or 7, but I thought the 5 I picked were clearly better.
Before we move on, do
Yeah.
we want to run through give your thoughts on Ottawa first, Adam, and then I'll run through our top fives for everyone.
Well, I think just what you said, Ryan. I like their defensive line. I'm not really sold on the secondary. And again, when you look at the linebacking core in this one, I don't know. Javon Santos Knox is pretty decent. And Darius Pickett really does help him. But other than that, you know what? Those are two starters. What do you got for depth? And I hope they have some. And then we need to talk to our American scout, essentially, Brandon Saunders, and see what he has to say about some of these Americans rookies that are coming in to training camp. Maybe there's some other picks that we're not knowing about. We will probably dig in on that. Let's just review really quick the defenses for what each person picked. I'll go first. I went with number 1 being the Saskatchewan Roughriders, number 2 being Montreal Alouettes, number 3 being the Edmonton Elks, number 4 the Toronto Argonauts, and number 5 the BC Lions. Ryan, you went with number 1 being the Montreal Alouettes, number 2 the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, number 3 the Edmonton Elks, number 4 the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and number 5 the Toronto Argonauts. And then Trey, you went with number 1 being the Montreal Alouettes, number 2 being the Toronto Argonauts, number 3 the Saskatchewan Roughriders, number 4 the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and number 5 the BC Lions. Hey, if you want to argue us and tell us how we're completely wrong and we know absolutely nothing and we don't probably don't need to be on a podcast to tell you that, but you know what? Head to our Discord channel. Make sure you go and roundly criticize why Hamilton or Ottawa or Calgary should be number 1 on the list. I guess we'll move on to kickers now. If you guys are good with that.
Let's do it.
Perfect. Yep. I mean, this is how most of our teams get their points, so I guess it's a pretty important role. I'm going to go and I'll start with this one because I wonder where you guys are going to have this guy. He's made 22 consecutive kicks ever since the game against the Montreal Alouettes. He's looked pretty decent. They signed him to a 3-year deal. I think it was last year. I'm going to go with number 3 from the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Brett Lowther. Or number 5, sorry, with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Brett Lowther. Honestly, he's a good kicker. He just has to get out of his own head half the time. He can make long kicks. He can make short kicks. He can do anything. But sometimes I think he kind of gets he becomes a goldfish in the bowl that is known as Mosaic Stadium. So, yeah, hoping to see a good season out of him this year. Trey, what do you got for number 5?
Well, first of all, did Water make your list, Trey?
0 chance. 0 chance. Yeah, it was 3rd in field goals made, but no, I thought some guys that had less field goals made were still just a better overall kicker. My number 5, I'm going to... Oh, watch this guy not be on the lineup anymore, and I missed it. I'm going to go with Leggio and Hamilton. I think he got better after he left Winnipeg, and I think with the explosive offense that Hamilton has, he's going to have the opportunities to get shorter field goals and a lot of extra points. So that's why I put Leggio as number 5.
Yeah, I also did not have Brett Lauder on my list. I actually didn't recall him going on that hot streak near the end of the season, but sounds familiar. He seems like a big momentum guy, but yeah, it seemed like kind of that up and down for him at times last year. I could say that about a lot of these guys on this list, honestly, that I was having a hard time ranking, where it's like they have been good at one point in their career, but they've also had some major swings of struggles, right? So Lauder didn't make my list, but Trey and I are in alignment that Mark Leggio at number 5 last year for Leggio, 89% of his field goals. I just have to put him at number 5 to have him make this list because he's so underrated. He got so much flack for his time in Winnipeg, which I think he has shown he is actually a solid kicker. So I wanted to give him some love, and that's why he's number 5 on my list.
Adam, do you have legs anywhere? Or you're muted. There we go.
I should stop hitting the other button instead of the other button. No, Mark Leggio didn't make my list. I think he's a really good kicker. But I don't know why. I just have that funny feeling that we're going to see an improvement on Lowther. That's why he made my list and Legio didn't. Honestly, Legio was probably like number 6 on my list. I think he'll be fine, and I think he'll be a good kicker for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but just did not make my list, mainly because I wanted to put Lowther on there for the 22 consecutive field goal. He's almost done a record for Saskatchewan, so that's why it was kind of cool to bring that one up. Yeah, so we got through our number 5s. Number 4. Ryan, I'll let you go first.
Sure, I've got Liram Harawahu of the Toronto Argonauts at number 4 on my list. He kicked a lot of field goals last year. Harawahu did 61 attempts, 55 made. That's a 90% accuracy, which is you want a kicker that can get you better than that. That should put you in the upper echelon of the league. And it just really stuck with me how many games last year Harawahu kicked like 5 or 6 field goals, and it seemed the Argos could not put the ball in the end zone at times, but he was delivering them enough points to keep them in games early on until the offense got on the roll. So, yeah, that's why he's number 4 for me. Trey, did he make your list?
Well, you just knocked off my big fish. I put him number 1 for that main reason. Like you said, 90%. If I was thinking about, there was 2 guys I was hemming and hawing about my number 1. And I said, you know what, honestly, if I was starting a fantasy draft or expansion draft right now and I could take a kicker, probably be him with his NFL experience, 90% success rate. He's been in around the league. There's one guy, him and Hod, that just fell just short. But yeah, Harawahu's my number 1.
Adam?
And Harawahu on mine actually made number 4. He was a good kicker last year. Age is starting to get up there. Usually age doesn't mean nothing in kickers. So, you know what? Honestly, if he's played in the NFL, he's played in the CFL, he can kick a football at decent range and short range at anything, really. And he has a good percentage to show for it. So, yeah, no, he makes my number 4 list this year. Number 3, actually.
Oh, I got to do my number 4. You want me to do my number 4?
Sorry, yeah, Trey, you got to do number 4.
That. Yes, do my number 4. I got of the Ottawa Red Blacks, Lewis Ward. Again, he made the most field goals last year, maybe because his team put him in that situation a lot. So, like, it's a tough stat to kind of go by. But, yeah, I took Lewis Ward, number 4.
That is a good reason for that, right?
Yeah, he didn't make my list. He was really close. I mean, I love Lewis Ward. Obviously, when we talk about like record-breaking streaks, Ward earlier in his career in that season where he had hit like 96 or 98% of his field goals and had, what was it, like 50 straight or something like that he hit then? Like, that was incredible. He's had a rough go since then where it's gone downhill to kind of a middling 80s percentage, and he hasn't quite gotten back up there, which was kind of the reason I didn't put him higher up on that list. But I have a lot of love for Lewis Ward, and hope we see a resurgence from him. Did he make yours, Adam?
He did make mine. He is actually my number 3 pick. Same reasons you're saying, Trey. I think he's a good kicker, and he gets a lot of attempts in an Ottawa team that seems to make it to the about 25, 30-yard line and then end up faltering. If Ottawa actually could make a lot of touchdowns, I think he'd make a lot of point afters. So I do like Lewis Ward. He's been a good kicker in the CFL for a very long time. And, yeah, that's why he gets my number 3 spot on the list. Ryan, I think we got to go back to you now and grab your number 3 pick.
Yeah, my number 3 pick, his percentage definitely wasn't there last year, but I think that was a byproduct of the number of long kicks he attempted, and he was able to make some of those, including some 60-yarders. So I have Sergio Castillo of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for the very reason of, not the accuracy side of things, but if I'm in a situation where I need a long kick, like, he's probably my number 1 pick at kicker, right? I mean, he's the one who was hitting those 60-yarders last year, and that's a very advantageous thing to have, when the clock is running down and you only need to get 10 extra yards instead of 20 because he's got the leg in order to hit it. So the percentage was down this last year, but we've seen him be a lot better than this previously. So I think that combo puts him at number 3 for me. Adam, was he on your list?
He was not on my list, and the accuracy was the biggest issue on that. In the CFL, you got to make your field goal when you got to make your field goal, whether it be from 50 yards out, 60 yards out, 70 yards out, or 20 yards out. I think he missed a 30-yarder, if I wasn't mistaken there. That went and pushed one game to overtime, and then Winnipeg ended up losing the game just because of that. And again, last year it wasn't such a big issue. 2 points, 2 points. This year here, I think that West Division is going to be razor thin, and 2 points could be the difference between going to a hosting a playoff game and not making the playoffs. So, yeah, everything counts for accuracy right now. I don't believe that Sergio Castillo has got the accuracy, so that's why he didn't make my list. Trey, did Castillo make yours?
Yeah, he's my number 3 as well for pretty much all the same reasons Ryan said. And yeah, the accuracy is probably why I didn't have him higher. Like I said, there was 2 guys I had 1, 2, and Castillo was my for sure 3 just because of that accuracy. But I think the Bombers' offense kind of left him in a bad area.
I will come to his defense a little bit on the accuracy where I just did the math. Yes, he missed. Where was it? He missed, I think it was 13 field goals last year. 3 of those came in that weird first game where they used the chipped balls that they were saying had a huge impact on the kicking game. So, how many of those would he have made otherwise? You'll never know. But I did do the math. If he would have made those ones in that game alone, he would have hit 84%, which is similar rate to some of those other kickers. It's still on the lower end, but hey, if we're having a contest for which kicker can hit the uprights, I'm going with Sergio Castillo, though, because I feel like he hit a number of those last year.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I thought he was going to be in Saskatchewan after he kept doing all that, but nevertheless, you know what? We got to go to our number 2 here, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, we've got all of our number 3s done already. Let's head to number 2. Trey, why don't you go first?
Yeah, the guy that was flirting with Aralahu for my number 1 is Calgary's Rene Perez. Again, probably one of the best kickers overall in the league. I just kind of bumped him down 1 because I'm not 100% sure if Calgary will put him in those situations to even make field goals. It might be a lot of punting in Calgary this year. So, that's kind of my one thing. But again, if I had to pick a kicker in expansion draft, I'd between Liram and Rene here for sure.
I've got him at number 2 as well on my list. He's clutch, right? Like most years over the last 7 years or so, he's hovered above 90%. Last year, he made all but 3 field goals. And how many times over the years have we seen Rene Paredes with the walk-off game-winning field goal, especially those close games with Winnipeg? I feel like we saw it a lot. And I think, is this the final ride for him perhaps this season in Calgary? He's getting up there in age. It seems like, his career is on the back end, but for now, I think he's still a top tier kicker in the CFL. Adam?
Nope. Same thing. I've got him at number 2 in the list. I think he's a great kicker. I don't know if I'd want to put him out there for the 60 bomb, maybe as much anymore. I mean, he probably can hit it. He always seems to hit everything else. So you never know. Maybe he's decent even for that. But if you got a kick that you need to make at 45, 46 yards, I'd want Rene Paredes on my team. And he's been on my fantasy team, I think, 3 years in a row, essentially. I end up with him every time. And I'm glad to have him because he is very reliable on his kicks. And that's one thing in Calgary I'd never be scared of is their kicking game. To go and say that they're pretty good at. The offense and defense, I'm still got a little questions, but hey, we'll see on that soon enough. Ryan, you got a number 1 pick given. I have a funny feeling you and me are probably thinking the same thing. Go ahead.
I just cannot believe this guy is not on Trey's list. I am shocked that he didn't make the list. He was the most accurate kicker in the CFL last year. He's been 87% plus for the last 10 seasons. And correct me if I'm wrong, he might be the most accurate kicker in CFL history, if not up there in the record books. Sean White. He's absolute money out in BC, and he will continue to be. He can hit them long. He can hit the short ones too. Last season, just like Rene Paredes, I think he missed 3 field goals, except he attempted more of them. 94% on field goals. Cannot ask for better than that. Adam?
Well, you and me are thinking alike because I mean, Sean White to me was the easy number 1 pick in this list because you're right, dead accurate. Plays in BC Place Stadium where he has to worry about possibly nailing a scoreboard and having Ben Major making fun of him. Yeah, he's a dead accurate kicker. No matter if he's indoors, outdoors, or where he is. If you have him on your team, he's making the field goal. No matter from a distance either. He can kick him from long. He'll kick him from short. Pressure doesn't seem to get to him. Yeah, Sean White is probably, I think, arguably the best kicker right now in the CFL. Well, I don't know if there's anybody really. I don't know who has his points. I mean, he's played it all. He's done it all. And he plays a good game. He plays a good game. But to me, I really do like Sean White as my number 1 pick. Trey, any thoughts on why Sean White didn't make your list?
No, I feel stupid but again, I don't know who I would replace him with. But at the same time, I feel like he's like, I guess he's not flashy. I guess I don't hear the name. It was like it was a slight of an overlook where, I mean, you're looking at him in the list, like, you know, he blends in with everybody. And I guess I just didn't think that he didn't jump off the page like, you know, other guys did. Like, again, Castillo made those long ones. Who's made some clutch ones. Maybe Sean White's just one of those guys where, yeah, he's accurate and it's just taking care of business where he's great, but the name just didn't jump off the page when I was looking through stats.
Well, I guess we don't really have many other kickers really to run through at the moment that I could think of. Maybe I guess we could go to Edmonton really quick. Do we want to talk about Dean Faithful?
Nah.
I don't think Dean Faithful is on the roster currently. It's currently a training camp battle for the kicking position for the Edmonton Elks because Boris Beatty was the guy last year and then he got cut, which was wild because I think the year before he was one of the best, like when he was in Toronto, he was one of the top kickers in the league. And then last year he was at 79%. He went from 94% in 2023 to 79% last year. I think the only other kicker we haven't talked about is Jose Maltos of the Alouettes, who was the 3rd most accurate kicker in the CFL last year. And I thought about maybe putting him on my list for that reason. But he kind of took over halfway through the year and only had 36 attempts. So I want to see more consistency from him at a larger volume to put him in my top 5.
The only other one I can think of too is, but I don't think he's signed by anybody, if I'm not mistaken, would be Josh Haggerty. Or is that a punter for the Toronto Argonauts?
He's Toronto's punter.
He was Toronto's punter. Okay. So, yeah, he probably kicked a few through the uprights, but, not the way he should. Okay. There's some training camp battles. We'll see who gets those jobs probably. I'm guessing Jose Maltas is probably maybe a little bit more guaranteed than others in Montreal. Edmonton's a full training camp battle. Guess we'll let you know who gets that job eventually. Just run through the list once more here so everybody can hear it and they can go and criticize us over on the Discord channel or tell us how smart we are. We prefer that. For Ryan, we've got number 1 being Sean White, number 2, Rene Paredes, number 3, Sergio Castillo, number 4, Liam Hairolahu, and then number 5, Mark Leggio. For myself, I've got number 1, Sean White, number 2, Rene Paredes, number 3, Lewis Ward, number 4, Liam Hairolahu, and number 5, Brett Lawther. And Trey, you've got number 1 being Liam Hairolahu, number 2, Rene Paredes, number 3, Sergio Castillo, number 4, Lewis Ward, and number 5 being Mark Leggio. If you got any concerns or questions or why we went with those orders or you didn't hear it earlier, I guess, you know what? Give us a message on the Discord channel. We'd always be able to help you out there. You can tell us why we're so very, very wrong or very, very right. I mean, whatever you please, I guess. Anything else going on that we need to go through in the CFL yet this before the next week training camp? Trey, you got any suggestions of what kind of countdown we need to do next week?
I think Trey might be having microphone issues there.
Yeah, I totally dropped my mic and I unplugged it, and then I plugged it back in, then I cut my camera. No, I think next week we're starting to get into preview time, right? Division preview. I think we're running out of weeks, so no more countdowns. We'll just maybe our top. Can't remember which one I have, East or West. So whichever our top four teams in the East next week.
Yeah, sure. I pulled up the schedule. That is the East preview next week. So division preview time, East preview next week, West preview the week after that. Our annual fantasy draft likely to follow after that as well, and then it's into the regular season mode. So we're getting there, guys.
It's slowly getting there. Again, we did want to bring up again for the Discord channel, if you do want to go and play us in fantasy and you think you're better than us in fantasy, we are trying to form up a really good league this year of our biggest and best and brightest people up on our Discord channel. So make sure that you guys go and select if you want to be in our fantasy league. Definitely want more in there. That's always more the merrier. It's always fun in there. Trey, of course, is our commissioner. He's all dressed up and he's got the trophy shined up and ready to go. I believe it was FM Fan last year, I believe was the winner of our
excuse me.
last year.
It was myself.
I was trying to see if he was paying attention. So
I'm always paying attention.
How come you couldn't win the one between the three of us or four of us? That's the one that Ryan really hates losing.
I would like to thank the BC Lions for screwing me over.
For a while there, I thought you weren't going to get touched because of the BC Lions, but nevertheless,
in hindsight, I should have spent only $99 on Bo Levi Mitchell. Lessons learned. I'm coming back with a vengeance, though, this year.
Unless Bo Levi Mitchell gets selected in the first round, you never know. We'll have all sorts of cool stuff like that coming up here in the shows in the future here. But, of course, next we're going to be doing episode 286 of the podcast. We're going to be going and talking about the East Division, the Alouettes, our Argonauts, the Red Blacks, and the Ticats. What's good, what's bad, what's going to make these teams work, and who. I guess we'll probably have a little bit of a prediction on how the East will pan out in the CFL this season. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at the CFC podcast Countdown Pod, either here or on Facebook, and of course on X. It is at facebook.com/CFC Countdown Pod if you want to follow us on Facebook. And of course, you can check out all the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network, as well as the CF Podcast Network on Twitter, or the Alternative Football Network. Also check those guys out at the official AFN or on X, or you can go to alternativefootballnetwork.com. Of course, Trey, how are teams doing over there in the UFL at this part of the season?
But both conferences have two teams at 5-2 that have more or less locked up the playoffs. I think it's more just each division has a team at 3-3 that's technically still alive, but a loss this week would more or less lock in the playoff matchups anyway. I think it's Birmingham Stallions and Michigan in the one, and then it's St. Louis and DC both are at 5-2, so there we go. So, yeah.
Trey knows his
there's
stuff.
A scheduling conflict or something like that going on in the UFL.
I have no idea.
Like that the teams can't have their home place because it's booked or something.
I don't know. I don't know. If it's not Birmingham, I don't know. Maybe. I just know Birmingham's went through 5 or 6 quarterbacks this year, and they somehow are still 5-2. So it's crazy.
Fair enough. Also, make sure that you go and, as I said before, check out our Discord channel if you get a chance. If you go and you can give us some news in the CFL general section on training camp and how it's going for your favorite team, by all means, we always try to read as much as we can about what's going on with any team, whether it's Saskatchewan, whether it's Ottawa, or it's Montreal, or any of the other great teams. Just send it on our Discord. We'll take a read of it, give you a like, and give you our thoughts on that as well. You can find us over on various channels if you do want to give yourselves a little bit of a plug here. Trey, what you been doing on socials lately?
Just a lot of horse racing stuff, man, at Trey MB Harness. It's that time of year. Preakness this weekend. No Triple Crown chance because the horse didn't draw in. So very interesting weekend. And just other horse racing stuff. So
does that happen lots that the horse that wins the Kentucky doesn't go into Preakness?
More and more. It's like this trainer. I could go on this. So thoroughbred horses don't run every 2 weeks anymore. So the Triple Crown schedule is very condensed. It's not good. Even the favorite doesn't look good in his warm-ups and stuff. So there's some things about that. And the trainer, the Triple Crown is not a big deal to trainers. They want the longevity of the horse and this value of the horse going into breeding. And risking a loss hurts it way more than him coming back for the Belmont. So it's a big discussion. It's the best for the sport versus best of the horse / trainer, right? Like, kind of thing.
And Ryan, I know you're not really a social guy on social media, but if people do want to find out what you're thinking about, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on all social media platforms at CF Countdown Pod. Go follow us there. No, you can also find me at Cooper Trooper 42 on both X and Blue Sky. But yeah, I really don't use it much, so expect disappointment and be happy with it.
You're not even going to try to talk about how the Winnipeg Jets are going to come back and win this series in 7.
Oh, no, what I said to you guys the other day is I think the Jets will win Game 5, find a way to finally win a game on the road in Game 6, and then just get demolished at home in Game 7.
Oddly enough, I got the same prediction with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think they're going to walk into Florida tomorrow. They're going to win 5-0 or something. Toronto fans are going to be through the roof and thinking they've won the Stanley Cup. And, then they're going to go back to Scotiabank Arena and probably lay an egg. If you want to follow me, I'm at Adam Stewart 1. Mostly on farm stuff right now, or I'm talking a little bit about CFL. If I see some cool news, sometimes I'll repost it. I don't know. I don't do a whole lot of Next anymore. I do a lot more on Instagram. So if you're looking for me there, it's Farmer in Sask. You can go and follow along and see what I'm up to in the field, I guess. Won't be much this weekend, I don't think, because we just got an inch of rain. And you can't really go and see through any of that. But whatever podcast you're listening to, we appreciate it if you do all the fun things like commenting, liking, subscribing, rating, reviewing, sharing the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate all of that. And from Ryan Coop and Trey Colbeck, it's been Adam Stewart here. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good one. Goodbye.